long. It gave me enough time to thank everybody for coming. Thank you, Conrad. Are you Uncle Conrad? Uncle Conrad, towards the last few, which I didn't know, weeks of my life, of my dad's life, Conrad got to see him in a good condition, and he was just counting the weeks to come home. So that's the hard thing about all of this. But first of all, before I speak, I hope it's okay. If you don't know it, it's okay. But my father loved the Our Father prayer, so I'm going to ask if you all say with me the Our Father, and then I'll say my speech, please. Thank you. Blue is his favorite color, and he used to always say, I just want a small little funeral, honey, but you know, I would like the birds of paradise. He was always particular about that, so I tried to go crazy with the birds of paradise. You know, Grandpa always made a point to say that, you know, so I'm glad I succeeded in that. And he was, the last couple of weeks, of course, I've been in mourning and going through my dad's belongings, and I found what Marissa said. She said, Beanie, you found jewels. And I said, I sure did, because my dad, which is probably where I get it from, he always wished to be a writer. And when he was a young boy, he's from a family of 10, he would tell me stories that when I would complain if I didn't get a pair of shoes I wanted and such forth, that he would remind me. He was so poor, he lived in a tent that had dirt on the floor, and his dad, my grandpa, would wet it at night because he would catch, if there was any footprints coming back in the house, if his kids got out, they would be grounded. So my dad used to share stories like that with me, and then I realized my dad, he said when he was a young boy, he tried to write, and he used to call himself, you know, literate. I can't write really well, illiterate, I can't write very well, and he goes, but I started as a young boy because, and I know Grandma and Grandpa didn't, it's what everyone did back in those days that didn't have enough, but my dad's first pets were chickens, and he had to keep the chicken coop, I'm sure you know where I'm going with this, he had to keep the chicken coop clean, and he named all the chickens, and he said they even had at one time a turkey, and his dad was very happy, and then about a year, my dad didn't realize that was going to be their dinner, and he was raising them to get fat to eat. So it's funny, and at the same time, it broke my dad's heart. And then my dad went hunting with, I think, my Uncle Larry, who's gone. I miss him very much. But he tried to go hunting, and he did go hunting a few times. But the first time he ever shot a bird and it went down, he says, Uncle Larry said, Freddie, it's okay. But my dad said, I just don't think this is for me. I don't think I could kill a human thing, you know? Which is funny because my dad loves Kentucky Fried Chicken. So, so obviously he wasn't, you know, that traumatized by it. But anyways, I'm just kind of winging it, and I just want to say that I loved my father so much. And he was so loved. Every time at dialysis, every time at the hospital, Walmart, where I would get his prescriptions, I would be cranky some days with my dad, and he would love it because every time I'd go, they'd go, you got a great father there. He's the nicest man, and I'd have to sit there and go, yeah, I know he is, I know he is. And it's the truth, and it's where I learned it from too, you know, his disposition, his way of life was to just enjoy and be grateful for what you have, is what he used to tell me. Be grateful. So I'm very grateful. And I just want to say, he loved Danny. He loved my husband. I'm sorry, it's just too hard, but he loved Danny tremendously. And he thanked him over and over again for all the years of helping him out. My dad I won't go into in-depth, but he had a lot of hard times like we all do in life. And hello, Uncle Bobby. Hello, thank you for being here. He loved Uncle Bobby. There's photos in the album of you and my dad young partying. So thank you for coming, Bobby. You got to look at the albums. Anyhow, so my dad wrote poems, and as Marissa said, you found jewels, Nene, and I did. And I couldn't read them all. There was, I'm not kidding you, over hundreds of poems. And yeah, some of them had misspelling, because my dad always was hurt in school because he got teased, because he didn't have, he always said, in fact, I don't know how my sisters could do it, because they were girls. But we were so poor, honey, I couldn't get shoes when the school year started. The last school, Larry's closed, Uncle Larry would get mad, or I'd steal them or take them. He goes, but your grandfather had bigger feet than me, and he said he put socks or something in Grandma's shoes, and he went to school and he got picked on. And so I think that's why when I wore a brace when I was a little girl, why he saw me get teased. So there's a lot of similarities why my dad and I have always been close. And so he quit school because he was embarrassed by that. And then then me and Marissa read a little thing about family that he says that he really had a crush on this young, beautiful girl, and walked up to her, and she said, oh no, I can't go with you, and can't be seen with you, you know, you always wear the same thing every day. And the way my dad wrote it, it obviously touched him, and it made a profound self-esteem, I guess, what I'm trying to say. So I think that's why because as he got older, which is so funny, all my life when I was a young girl, and my parents divorced, I'm sorry, but you know, every woman I possibly know, my dad was handsome, was like, wow, you know, and so it's hilarious. My dad made up for it, and so, and I'm sorry, it's not appropriate to say, but it's the truth. And the poem that I think is appropriate that he wrote is called The Coming of Age. And he's got a photo of his brothers and sisters, which you'll see in the album. I blew it up really big, but he's got a photo of the entire family, Grandma and Grandpa, and that you all have. And anyhow, it's called The Coming of Age. I have come from my youth. I have descended to my age. I have awakened my soul, my spirit. It's all come alive. I shall not return to my youth, for youth is bold and age is weak. Youth is the morning star, age is the falling star. And now the autumn calls and the leaves of winter fall. And when the taunted lines have absorbed my youthful image and the days of spring have vanished, I shall have the remembrance of my youth as I sit here writing of these days, of my past, my poetry. I'm hiding, I'm piercing through my pen, hiding, afraid to show, embarrassed to show. For now I have reached the ends of the bounds of my life, and I now hastily walk into the autumn of my life with bitter rest. But now in the coming of age, my poems, hopefully one day, will be blessed by my children and exposed all my fears that I've always had all my life. All the sad songs are concealed in my heart, and now my soul comes to rest upon the splendid silence of the earth, of quiet fields and orchards of blossoming flowers and roses, shadows of the trees reaching to the sun to justify my past. And as I write these passages and have endured the agony and my trials on earth, oh, my dear mother, I miss you, and I miss you, my dear father, and I'm sorry for the trouble I caused. And you, my brothers and sisters, may you all reach the shores of your sanctuary. I have caused a lot of grief that I'm not proud of, but my death will consume my punishment, and I'll be at peace, and I hope forgiveness comes. I condemn myself to you, my mother I love, who gave me the gift of life, as I am entombed with the birds of paradise.
You know, we had a good laugh. And it just showed me, what a good guy Freddie was. Big heart, big spirit. And but he never let me forget it. That's for sure. He constantly, reminded me, and I think he made me wash his car and mow his lawn and stuff. Pay back. And as you know, Freddie was, he loved writing poetry, he loved reading and stuff like that. So I found a poem that I thought was appropriate that I'd like to share. Glasses here, show my age. The poem is called Poem of Life. Life is but a stopping place, a pause in what's to be, a resting place along the road to sweet eternity. We all have different journeys, different paths along the way. We all are meant to learn some things, but never meant to say. Our destination is a place far greater than we know. For some, the journey's quicker. For some, the journey's slow. And when the journey finally ends, we'll claim a great reward and find an everlasting peace together with the Lord. So I thought Freddie would appreciate that. And as you know, Freddie liked to joke around a lot. He was always kidding, stuff like that. I think it was part of his DNA. I think he was part of the Hernandez DNA, the way of life, right? The last time that the last time that I saw Freddie was Tina and I and his granddaughter Marissa. It's part of his humor. This is kind of why I'm bringing this up, not to make people sad or whatnot. But anyway, so we went there to see Freddie. It was about 5 days before he passed, and we were just, Tina was doing a thing with the hospital, and me and Marissa went back to say, checking on Freddie and, chit chat, small talk and stuff. And so we were just checking on him, and as we were getting ready to go, we were like, hey, is there anything you need? In typical Freddie humor, which I hadn't seen for a while, he raised his his amputated leg. He's like, yeah, how about a new leg? And it was good. I hadn't seen that from Freddie in a long time. So it was good to see that. Good to have that lasting memory there. And anyways, my apologies. And anyways, to finish out, I had found another poem that, since I got a little bit of Irish in me, I figured I'd throw a little Irish poem in there. It's called Irish Blessing. And it says, may the road rise to meet you, may the wind always be at your back, may the sun shine warm upon your face, and the rains fall soft upon your fields, until we meet again. Freddie, love you.
Our mom, Kathleen. We have lots and lots and lots of memories with Grandpa. When we were little, he was a great grandpa, so funny. A story I think we love is when he lived with us in Grass Valley. He'd pick us up from school, and we'd go through Foster Freeze, and it was his white Chevy. He'd pick us up, and we'd go through Foster Freeze, and you girls want an ice cream? Yeah. And he'd take us to the park, and he'd open up a tall can, and he'd be like, "Don't tell your mom." Of course we told her, but later. But I think Grandpa was amazing. We miss him very much. We miss our mother very much. Thank you all for being here.
things about my grandfather, Prince David. Yeah.
Youngest brother, youngest in the family, Ken. My brother Freddie had a very kind heart. They say the boys in our family are more like the mother. My mother was a real caring person, and Freddie had a very soft heart. He would help anybody. And I do remember the stories about living in a tent and playing with rabbits and chickens that we raised. We thought they were toys, but we were going to eat them. I remember those stories. I'm going to miss my brother a lot. And I hope he's with my mom and my dad and my sister, all my aunts and uncles. We'll miss him so much. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Want me to speak, Tina, on behalf of all your extended family. Let me extend our condolences. I know you're strong. I know you can be strong. You're Freddie's daughter. Freddie was very strong, and that really is the theme of what I want to say today. I was over at UCLA here several weeks ago and stopped by, called Tina and says, hey, I need to go see Freddie. So they had just moved him to a convalescent home. And so I stopped by on my way home, and she was coming over with the laundry. And we were there together, and I saw him, and so we were talking. And I remember she mentioned again, because we had seen him a couple of weeks before that at the hospital. I think it was a couple of weeks. But anyway, I remember she said that he was strong, that she knew he was strong, that he always exhibited strength. And it's very true about Freddie. Freddie was a very humble person. We grew up together. I remember the tent, I remember the chickens, the rabbits, and things like that. I remember I used to take my BB gun over, and we used to have little target shoots with the chickens every now and then. But you know, those are things that were fun. And I grew up with my compadre for years and years, and even in Santa Barbara. As a matter of fact, he got me my went. But beyond that, he was a very humble person. I remember he used to come over and visit me every now and then when he lived in Bakersfield, and he had sort of this child naivety, you know, and he would say, hey, come, do people really do these kind of things? And whatever topic we were talking about. And I said, yeah, why? You really? They really do these? And I said, oh, Freddie, come on now, you know they do it, and blah, 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 you know. So, and that's the way he was, and that's the way I want to remember him. But getting back to the strength, you know, there was this old story, and I told Tina, I know where he got his strength, because he had a lot of bouts in his life, and I remember he had a 53 Mercury. And you know, back in the day, you'd buy a tall can or whatever, a tall bottle, and you'd go drinking on the beach, you know, in Cabrillo Boulevard and blah, 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 and be drinking. And so one night, we got this message, Freddie's in the hospital. And I said, what happened, blah, 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 you know. And, well, Freddie was coming around the curve over there by the bird refuge on Cabrillo Boulevard in Santa Barbara. Bingo, this palm tree ran in front of him. And anyway, Freddie lost. The car lost. Freddie was in the hospital. Several months of surgery, several months of remolding him. I think it was, what's his name? I can't remember his name. Norman's brother gave him the name Moldy because they had molded plastic surgery and stuff, and molded his face back together, new teeth and everything. And voila, guess what they did? they gave him the Robert De Niro look. So I told Tina, I said, yeah, he's a tough guy. He's a tough guy. I mean, that's the way he was. He's just like Grandma was. He's just like his mom was. So yeah, Tina, you inherited the strength, and that's a legacy your daddy's going to leave you with, okay? The strength. Good. Thank you very much.
I'm the sixth of the 10 children, and Freddie was my brother. I have a lot of good memories of my brother. Stuff that will never leave me. And there's one thing I did want to say, is that when I read the Bible, I tend to remember what I read in there, especially things that comfort me. And for this, it is going back to King David. When King David and Bathsheba were going to have their child, the child was struck sick by the Lord because of a sin David had done. And David wept and he wept and he prayed for that child and he fasted and he wouldn't ever do anything. Even his attendants were so worried about him because they thought the king was going to die because he just wept and wept over his child. But then one day, the attendants came and they said, we have to tell him the child is deceased. But they were afraid, they didn't know what he would do. So when they went to him, David said, the child has passed. And he said, yes. So David got up immediately. He washed up, he got dressed, he asked for food, and he went about. And his attendants were very puzzled, and they said, we have just told you your child has passed. Why are you so happy? Why are you up eating now and doing all these things? And he said, when the child was ill, I wept and I cried and I prayed, asking for the Lord for his son. He says, but he has wept. So now the time has come to pass. The grieving is past for King David over his son because he knew that he would see him again someday in heaven. And someday I expect to see my brother. So for me, my brother is already gone. And I am sad because I'm human and I'm selfish. And I want to see my brother and hold him. But I know, and I praise God for everything he gave me with my brother. But just like King David, now's the time to pass. Let the grieving go. And remember, he was here, and he was here for a purpose and fulfilled his purpose that the Lord had for him. You know, and there's just so much more I could say about my brother because I used to spend a lot of time with him. But that's what will keep me going from now on, is that knowing that, just like David, I know that I have to let go now and just rejoice.